Hi, welcome. I'm Nira Berry, the happiness coach, and your host of Happy and Healthy, where we explore and discover all the many ways of keeping you feeling happy and healthy. And remember to stay tuned to my Good to Know segment at the end of each show, where I've got always something good to share with you that's good to know. So today we're going to learn all about honey and beekeeping and really how to stay healthy with honey. So please welcome my guest today, Chris White. And thank you so much for being here, Chris.
It's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And you are the CEO of Bee America, and it's like a family-owned apiary that's local here.
It's a family-owned honey company, yep.
Wow.
Apiary and honey company, yes.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yep.
That really is amazing. And so I know that everybody knows what honey is, but what is it exactly?
Well, honey is really the promise between the bees and the trees.
Oh.
Right, and so it's an amazing food that never spoils, and it's designed for you to eat. It's an incredibly rare and special product. The way honey is created is that the trees produce nectar in their flowers. Especially in this region, it's really tulip poplar is predominantly the flowers that produce the most nectar. Those big yellow flowers that come out
On trees.
Yeah, they come out in the trees. And they produce the nectar, and the bees will fly up to those flowers, and they'll collect that nectar in a special pouch, and they have a little honey stomach. You think they're really small, so they collect just a very little bit of that nectar. And that nectar is about 80–85% water, and they'll bring that back to the hive, and then they'll dry it down till it's about 14% water. And then they add some enzymes, some natural enzymes in it that break it down a little bit, and they add some antimicrobial agents to it as they're bringing it back in their honey stomach, and then they dry it down. And when it gets to about 14% water, they cap it, and that's that capped honey. So really, honey is amazing because it's not a product of the bees; it's actually a product of the plants that come from it, and so. Honey is actually a kosher product.
Wow.
As well. Honey is a certified kosher product that the bees just facilitate the transport and the development of the honey. But it's really nectar from flowers.
And then the bees just do the manufacturing.
Right. So the bees collect it. They have to collect it and concentrate it. So if you went around to each flower and collected this little teeny bit of nectar, then it would be almost impossible. It takes 2 million visits to a flower to produce a single pound of honey.
Wow.
And you think that is just a tremendous amount of work they have to do to collect that beautiful, sweet honey that they produce. And it's just gorgeous stuff.
Well, I almost don't even have to ask you the next question, which is what inspired you to start it? Because I'm just so inspired just from hearing
when you
just story.
It's such an amazing, and understanding what a colony is and how a colony works is a remarkable and fascinating thing. There are actually 2 Nobel Prizes that were given for understanding how a hive works. And so being able to witness that in your own yard is just beautiful. That somebody got a Nobel Prize for figuring out how the bees communicate with each other about which direction the food source is. They call it the waggle dance. And then how they do that, and they observed it. And it's something as simple as just observing bees was sufficient to get a Nobel Prize, and that's another one. The decisions they make within the hive are really amazing. The way honeybees make decisions about where to find a new hive or not, there's a beautiful book called Honeybee Democracy, in that they teach each other amazing lessons about how collectively to make decisions, because they're all equal.
Wow.
But individually, each bee doesn't have a huge brain, right? Because it couldn't fly around. But collectively, they can make really good decisions.
That's fascinating. I'm just totally fascinated by that whole topic.
And they pollinate. They're really balanced against the things that you plant in your yard. Whenever you see flowers, the flowers are not doing that for you. They're doing it for pollinators.
Wow.
Right, and so it's that balance between the pollinators and the flowers that has to be just perfect.
Wow.
And so watching that every year is just remarkable. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're inspiring me to want to go and have my own beehives.
Yeah.
So what are the benefits of honey? I know that there are so many.
It's it's really the only, when we think about being happy and healthy, boy, honey is just inspiring to eat because you can think about, where it came from and all those things. But in terms of its health benefits, it's an amazing sweetener. So there are very few things that you can eat that are sweet that have that allow you to have additional flavor to them. And so if you have sugar or molasses or brown sugar, they go into your bloodstream very rapidly, and then they fade out very rapidly. Where honey, because of its viscosity and its properties, it actually infuses into your system very slowly. And so it gives you that sweet sugar release over a long period of time. And so you can, for the same amount of calories and sugar, you're satisfied for a longer period of time. And it's got these, you can do really interesting things with honey taste and flavor in different feeds.
Yeah. So, but I've read that honey has amazing properties to it, medicinal properties.
Yep.
And
Yep.
Can you share some of those?
Well, so honey, in addition to being really good to eat, you can do other things with it. Like it's really useful for healing wounds. Like if you get
on your skin?
Right, on your skin, it's because it has such low water content, but the sugars actually absorb water, it has the ability to keep the surface of your skin, like on a cut, very moist, and so it aids in healing. And because the bees have added these antimicrobial pieces to it, as part of their process for making the honey, it keeps the wound clean. And there's just a very trace amount of hydrogen peroxide in the honey, and it's got high acidity, which means that because honey doesn't support microbial growth, it's perfect for healing wounds and rashes and all kinds of stuff. And that's just for topical skin treatments. You can, it's also just really good it's like an ideal sweetener for almost anything you want to do.
Yeah. And I've also read about the benefits of eating local honey.
So a number of our customers find tremendous relief from allergies from using really local honey. And that's honey that's still got the pollen in it, which is pretty rare. You have to get that from people who actually collect bees. It's hard to get that from grocery stores. If you go to a grocery store or a wholesale, that way, and you take honey and you put it under a microscope slide, a lot of that honey has been processed and filtered, and they've taken all the pollen out. But,
so the key is to make sure that it says raw on the label?
Yeah, raw honey or less processed honey. The closer you can get to people who get stung, the less processing you'll see, right? And so that's an easy way. If the person you talk with say, "Well, have you been stung?" and you go, "Yeah," then it's like, okay, the honey you get's going to be very little processing.
Yeah.
And we do within all the honey that we make and distribute has no processing. We basically just filter out the parts. Because there's like little wax pieces and that kind of thing. We just filter those out so it's relatively clear.
And I know some people really like to eat the waxy part. What is that
Eat
called?
Eat the comb.
Yeah. Isn't that?
It's wax.
Is there any health benefits to that?
It's waxy. Yeah. I'm not sure if there's a health benefit to it. It's wonderful and sweet and chewy, and it lasts for a long time.
Yeah.
That's just beautiful stuff. Yeah.
So tell me more about the allergies. Do you know, like a
yeah? So we have one client that gives our local honey to their dog, a dachshund, and the dachshund is essentially doesn't experience the allergies anymore after they eat our local honey. And a number of our clients are, when the pollen count is really, really high, they're very enthusiastic about taking our local honey, and they say that it brings them relief.
Oh, yeah, I've read that that if you do suffer from allergies, that it's helpful to make sure you get the purchase honey that's the closest to you, so that the flowers or the bees.
So there are people that find relief from that, and that works.
Yeah. So are there any misconceptions about bees or honey?
Yeah, I think one of the popular misconceptions is that bees are aggressive, and that bees are looking to get you. And that the bees are not looking to get you. They've got a lot of work to do. They only live for 26 days, pretty much, except for the queen.
Really?
Yep. the bees only live for 26 days.
So
and
they
they've
don't
got,
they don't live from year to year.
no,
Like that's
no. They're,
only
the
26
queen
days?
is the queen is the only one that lives more than 26 days, and that during those 26 days they've got a tremendous amount of work to do. I mean, you think about those 2 million visits to a flower. They've got to visit a lot of flowers in a lot of time, and you've got to work really hard to disturb them, to get them to notice you. And so they're not, and so bees are really not aggressive, and they're really working very hard. Since our children were very small, they've always helped us in the apiary. Certainly we wear protective clothing to protect our eyes and our noses and our mouth, keep them from being up our nose.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Right, but in general, you don't have to wear a lot of protective gear.
And you've been stung a lot, right?
Sure. The two things you're guaranteed as a beekeeper is that, it'll be sticky and you're going to get stung.
Yeah.
Right.
And do you actually feel the sting effects
Oh, it
less
hurts.
and less?
Yeah.
The more you're
no,
stung?
they still hurt. But you work.
Because that's is that a myth that you
No,
get?
I don't think so. I mean, there's some people that develop allergies to bee stings, and those are very serious. And if you have an allergy and you react allergically to that, it's very important that you seek medical attention quickly, because
Yeah.
it'll keep you from breathing properly. So absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, it hurts. But when I have been stung, it's because I'm doing something that they really don't like.
Oh.
Yeah, like I'll lean up against the hive or something, and I'm squishing the bee. And the bee's like, I really don't want you squishing me. You have to, or you get them between your fingers or something. But in general, they're like, you do what you need to do, I'll do what I need to do.
Yeah.
And they just stay away. So bees are not aggressive that way.
And are they the bumblebees?
So
Is that what they are?
They're also a good way to there's a big distinction between bees and hornets and other things. So bees are fuzzy, hornets are not.
Yeah.
Right? So if it's not fuzzy, boy, they're going to be really aggressive.
Yeah.
Hornets are very aggressive, and they'll sting multiple times. If a bee stings you, then she's given up her life.
Oh, really? They die? as soon as
Absolutely. They
sting
will
you?
die if they sting you. They got one sting, and that's it. They're dead.
Oh.
Their stinger actually rips their body apart. Yeah. So but hornets, no problem. They sting over and over again. They love stinging you, and they're really aggressive. So if it's not fuzzy and it's shiny, stay away. Those are aggressive.
Yeah. But
Yeah, for the most
bees
part.
are
Bees are not.
They're gentle.
Bees are focused on what they've got to do.
Yeah.
And that they're really focused on collecting honey and supporting the hive and making sure the hive is clean and
And they only have the 26 days, and
Right.
and that's it.
Right. And the queen lays a huge number of eggs every day.
Wow.
Yeah, she'll lay 2,500 eggs a day when she's building up the hive.
Wow. Well, I really want to hear more about that, and so we're going to just take a break, and just really enjoying speaking with Chris White and of Bee America, and we're going to just take a quick break, and we'll be right back. So stay tuned.
Maria, so how's work?
It was fourth period biology. Our students just weren't getting how easily viruses spread. So Miss Bell and I had them role play a zombie virus outbreak. By the time they had all learned the lesson, all the living were dead. Hey, how's your job going?
That big sales meeting I planned? Next year, I might get to go.
Cool.
Hi, welcome back. I'm Nira Berry, your host of Happy and Healthy, and we're going to continue speaking with Chris White of Bee America. So, Chris, you started telling us a little bit about what goes on in the beehive, and so can you fill us in a little bit more, because it's just fascinating to me.
It's just the beehives are really fascinating places that are under observation. If you think about the life cycle of a bee, so the queen will lay an egg. She lays like 2,500 eggs a day when she's building up production in the hive, and that her sisters, because all the bees in the hive are genetically identical to the queen, so they're all sisters, and there's almost no boys in the hive.
Oh.
Only a few. They're called drones, and they're basically useless. No comment there. But her sisters will take care of the egg.
Well, first of all, how does that happen?
So the
where does that come
queen knows the gender of the egg that she's going to lay. And so she lays mostly girl eggs, and only in rare cases will she lay boy eggs.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
And so she lays girl eggs, and then they will, her sisters will then take care of her as an egg, and then she'll grow up to be a larva. And it's really important. She's laying eggs every day. And then all the sisters to the queen collectively make a decision every day about, is the queen strong enough or not? And should we overthrow the queen? And if the queen is not strong enough, or if the queen is weak, then the workers will decide, we need a new queen. And so what they will do, when the larva comes on after a number of days, they'll say, the queen's strong enough, we don't need a new queen, we need a lot more workers. They'll switch you from royal jelly, which is produced from a gland that they have. So everybody knows the royal jelly. And
No,
well, so there's a gland that the bees have, and they produce something called royal jelly. And it's a little, just microscopic amounts of this stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So they give that to the larva to let them grow in. But at some point, they decide, queen's strong enough, you're going to be a worker. And they switch you over to something called bee bread, which is a mixture of pollen and honey that they've made. And if they give you bee bread, you're a worker.
Oh.
But if they decide, man, our queen is in trouble, she's not producing the right amount of pheromones, we need a new queen, they'll take 15 or 20 of those larvae, and they will keep feeding them queen royal jelly.
Wow. I've
And they
seen
will-
that for sale.
Right, that's incredibly rare and very expensive. But if you
Yeah.
get royal jelly throughout your entire development, you become a queen.
So, but as far as for humans,
Right.
I've read, I mean, I don't know if this is true or not, but I've read that that royal jelly is supposed to have some very, very healthy properties, or
So-
supposed to boost your immune system. I'm not really.
Right, the really difficult part is it's produced in such small quantities.
That's why it's so expensive.
It's really expensive, and there's really very difficult to control the quality of that
Oh, okay.
because it's produced basically in places without standards associated with
Oh, I
its
see.
production. So if the royal jelly you're buying, it's really hard to ensure that that was actually a product of bees and not something else.
Oh, interesting. So the bees that locally that you have,
Mm-hmm.
they need the tulip poplar trees to
Right,
produce
right,
their
so
honey?
that they
How do
need it.
you know, or how do the bees decide? Okay, we're going to go to that tree, not to another tree.
Boy, they are looking for nectar all the time, and so they're looking for any flower source that's producing a lot of nectar.
So do they mix and match, or
Absolutely.
They do.
Absolutely.
Okay.
They'll go and they'll find whatever they can.
So it's not always the tulip poplar that you mentioned. Is that how they alter you alter the flavor, or?
So we don't actually alter the flavor. What we do is we basically say, you know that it takes 2 million visits to a flower to produce a pound of honey.
Yeah.
And so there better be a bunch of whatever flower
I
that is.
see.
And so if they visit like a black locust at the same time, which blooms about the same time as the tulip poplar, then there'll be a little black locust mixed into that.
Oh, I see.
And later in the season there may be clover. So clover produces a tremendous amount of nectar as well. But there are only a few nectar sources, and the nectar sources are different in different parts of the country.
Yeah. Because I see here, like you brought in a nice selection, and it almost
Right.
seems like it's a varietal, different flavors, like as
right,
if it was
right.
different types of wine, the different
Exactly.
types of honey.
So we have like an orange blossom, and that's produced from orange blossom trees. So if you're surrounded by orange blossoms, in Florida, for example,
Yeah.
forever and ever, then the nectar that they're going to collect is going to have that citrusy flavor. And so if you want to make a salad in the middle of winter, and you want to bring that citrus element into the dressing, instead of using a sugar, that you can use an orange blossom honey, and then when you're eating your salad, it's going to taste like orange blossom.
Wow.
And that's orange blossom.
I
And
never
then-
thought about honey as like
bunch
that,
of different
adding
flavors. And you can have all the way down. The one in the green there is Tupelo honey, which is the world famous Tupelo honey. And that's produced actually from the Tupelo trees, which grow in the swamps of northern Florida and South Georgia. That's this green one right here.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what do you need to do to actually help the bees produce it? Or is there anything that you do that's really necessary, or they can just go in on their own?
So the bees are really good. The queen is really good has to be really good at maintaining the size of the hive, and ramping up production in the winter, and then keeping the right number of bees for the winter, and monitoring the stores and all those things. And if she gets that right, the hive will survive.
Yeah.
And so your job as a beekeeper is to keep them as free of pests and diseases as you can, using natural methods. We use natural methods. And the other thing we do is moderate the size. So when they're in the middle of, man, we want to collect a bunch of honey and make all that happen, you need to make the hive as big as possible.
Oh, I see.
And so you make the biggest possible. When they go into winter, you want to like reduce the size of the hive down. After you do the harvest, you want to reduce it down so that they can overwinter effectively. And the queen will say, you know, starting in the fall, she'll start preparing for winter. She's preparing the hives now for winter.
Oh,
and what she will do is she'll produce about 30 to 40,000 bees. And she'll bring the size of the hive down to about 30 to 40,000 bees. So she has to, a very narrow line to thread. She has to have enough bees that she can form this soccer ball that they keep really warm. The bees form a mass, a round mass about the size of a soccer ball.
Wow.
And
So you were talking about like winter and everything. Like,
Yeah.
Does honey keep its properties if it's refrigerated? Like, do you need to refrigerate
You
honey?
don't need to refrigerate honey. They've found honey in Egyptian tombs that's 2,000 years old.
Wow.
And you can just eat it, just right away. And it's the only other things they found there are like dried rice and those things, and you have to treat them. But honey's like the only food that's completely preserved, but ready to eat at any moment.
So it doesn't go off.
Mm-mm.
It's just sitting in the pantry.
Forever and ever. And sometimes you may have honey sitting in the pantry and you look at it and you go, oh, it's crystallized a little bit. And you think, oh, is that bad? And the answer is no, it's not bad. An easy thing you can do is you can take that crystallized honey, and if you drink coffee or you have a little coffee warmer for your cup of coffee, you just take that jar of honey, put it on the coffee warmer, and within a short amount of time it'll melt all those crystals out. And it'll be just exactly the way it was when you bought it. Or you can enjoy crystalline honey, which is a lot of Europeans do that. They spread it on toast.
So I guess it's good as long as you don't like add anything to it, like from your spoon or anything, you know, that it'll last.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly right.
And it has all those wonderful medicinal properties.
It does
so
have
it's
those
something that
medicinal
people should
properties.
definitely always keep in their
Absolutely.
house, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really amazing. So when you I know that there's a real issue with bees, like their population getting smaller. So
that's colony. There are a number of diseases and threats that the bees are facing.
Yeah.
And the most serious of those is probably colony collapse disorder. But there's also varroa mite. There's also hive beetle. There's a number of tracheal mites. And the colony collapse disorder is very serious. That people, mainly it affects very large beekeepers. And they'll take 1,000 hives, they'll migrate them to like the almond harvest, and then they'll put them out in the field, and when they go to collect them, half of them will be gone.
Oh.
They're just gone.
Yeah.
And they just don't know where that is. And so there's a lot of research going on to try and understand what's going on with that. And it's hard.
So the bottom line is we should not kill a bee when we see bees.
Right,
We should really.
Right. And the local beekeepers, I think, they're going to be really important. And there's a lot of things you can do to actually support bees and support pollinators in your world. Like, you may think about creating a natural border around your yard and allow it to grow up a little bit, and maybe some wildflowers or those things to grow in that part.
Yeah.
You can also use less pesticides and herbicides.
Yeah.
Right, because it turns out we use like 3 times as much as we're supposed to use.
Right, I've read
according
that.
to directions. So that's another thing you can do.
So if people want to find out more about Bee America, and
sure.
would you mind giving us your website?
Yeah, so it's beeamerica.com, BEE-America.com. Yeah, that's
Okay,
another
well,
great.
thank
That's a
you.
great resource, and there's a blog post and that kind of thing. Another great resource that you can use is the Montgomery County Beekeepers Association, and that they have a class that they can teach you all about bees.
Yeah, that's
County
really
Fairs.
interesting.
County Fair is a
Yes,
great place as well.
That's true. So, what is your favorite thing to eat honey with?
Oh man, there's all different kinds of honey, and it goes with all different wonderful things. Sometimes you just eat it with a spoon. You know, it goes really well in hot beverages in the winter, but in the summer it's delicious on cheese. It pairs really well with cheese. Yeah, it's just lovely.
So, since you have all this access to honey, how much of it do you eat during the day?
Yeah, we eat a lot of honey. Yeah, we eat a lot of honey in our house. That's for sure.
Yeah, I bet you do. And do you have a favorite flavor, or just the
Boy.
the one the local?
I love them all.
Yeah.
Right? And that they're different honeys are really good for different things. Like there's a honey that's made from buckwheat flour, and it's almost as thick as molasses.
Wow.
And then there's
I've
a honey
seen that, and it's dark too,
It's
right?
very dark.
Yeah.
It's very dark, and it can be all the way down to like a light clover honey.
Wow.
It's really light and delicate.
It's so interesting, and I'm just fascinated by it. So I thank you so much for
Yeah.
being here and just shedding light on the buzz about the bees.
Yeah,
So-
that's really fun. And honey will keep you happy and healthy, that's
yeah,
for sure.
yeah. So thank you so much for being
Thank you.
here, and we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, it's going to be time for my Good to Know segment. So stay tuned.
Hey, you.
Yeah, you. Getting that college education? What are you gonna do? Graduate and take some office job? Be like everybody else?
Or will you dare do something different?
Like, be a teacher. You could be my teacher. You got the skills.
The smarts?
Yes, you.
You could be the teacher I never forget.
That'd be cool.
Does that corporate job even have recess? What are you gonna make of yourself?
What are you going to make of me?
Hi, I'm Nira Berry, the happiness coach, and your host of Happy and Healthy. And now it's time for my Good to Know segment. So, what I'm going to be focusing on today is my series of being successful at work and at life, and just having a really good quality life. And so, do you feel sometimes that you're just like a busy bee, just going from flower to flower without a break? So, my suggestion is to slow down. Do you feel stressed? Just always running and running and running? So my suggestion is to slow down. Do you get headaches? Do you feel like you're not accomplishing it enough, like as if the world is moving too fast? So I've read this quote recently, and I really felt it was appropriate. It says, slow down, you're doing fine. You can't be everything you want before your time. And I know it sounds like counterintuitive, like almost like upside down, but it's true that slowing down is the best way to speed up your life. And just think about it. When was the last time you felt like you were in no hurry? Just you were just being. You know, because rushing really gives us a feeling like we're getting more done, but we're actually not, because often we're missing like important cues in life. Like maybe we're on the highway of life and we forget to take the turnoff of where we really want to be. You know, maybe we're not paying attention to conversations because we're thinking about where is the next place for us to be. And we're missing like important things. And so I suggest that you take a deep breath and just try to slow down a little bit. You know, maybe even liberate your wrist and take your watch off, even for one day. You might even notice that you look at your wrist often. And how about if you just arrive somewhere 15 minutes early and just be, and not feel like you have to rush and like as if you're rushing all the time. And just really just be. And another suggestion is really to get the best quality of your energy and your time is maybe even meeting with a life coach and really just maximizing your energy and where you want to be instead of frantically always searching and running everywhere. So let me know how that's working for you. And if you want any information, you can always reach me, Nira, the happiness coach. You can reach me at info@niraberry.com. Also check out my website at niraberry.com. So thank you so much for watching. You've been watching the Happy and Healthy Show, and I'm Nira Berry, your host, and I hope you have a happy day.